So, hi, welcome to our new podcast or our explorations call. David Belfer here. I'm in Melbourne. And Robert, where are you?
I'm in New York.
In New York. So we've got two Eastern Coast subjects that we're playing with today, being he is one and me is another. We are not sure what this is going to be. We've just started it and it's going to be an amazing offering. I know that's the truth. How did this come to be, Robert? Why are we here?
What happened was that David and I were in a conversation just a couple of weeks ago, and he just basically, I won't say blurted out, but he said, basically, would you like to do a podcast? And I had never done one and didn't give him an answer. And immediately, it was something that I wanted to think about. But it seemed like a really wonderful idea to be able to do that, to be able to offer something. What's interesting about this concept is that it is an experiment. We did not come with any general intention in terms of subject matter, but more so to have a desire and intention to help support this world and those individuals that are listening to this call, and to provide some positivity and opportunity to think a little bit in terms of whatever we discuss, whatever that may be. And so this motion of simply trusting the moment is what this is all about. And how often do we do that? We often are planning, or as David and I were sharing, how often do we plan versus just trust the moment? Trust this moment and this moment and this moment. So what I found for myself is that when I trust the moment, magic happens. It's often about trusting spirit, trusting your impulses, trusting your knowing. And so that's what this is. This is all about being in the moment and watching what emerges in that moment. And so for those of you that are here that would like to join us in trusting the moment, we welcome you. I'm in New York. David's in Australia. It is 9 p.m. for me. It is 12 p.m. for him next day. So we know that definitely the next day is coming because David is experiencing it. I was wondering, is the next day going to come? I could look at David and say the next day is definitely coming. It's going to happen.
So thank you for thing that's coming.
So already we have a positive thing. We know that tomorrow's coming. So the first thing I said to David was, I wanted to see some kangaroos and some wallabies, and I wanted to see some koala bears. And I was disappointed. I was disappointed because he did not share them with me. I'm still waiting for them. I could show him cars out my window. That's my New York cars out the window. But anyway, so that's...
Sorry, I'm just a green screen virtual kind of guy. So Robert, people don't necessarily know who we are. Your folk over there in New York that know you, that are getting onto the call, know you, but they have no idea who I am. And my folk here in Australia and around the world may not know who you are either. So just a little bit of background for us. I actually met Robert at a program called Enlightened Warrior Training Camp. That was in 2012. So 8 years ago, this time of the year, it was October. It's always the end of September or October. And Robert runs one of the 2 nights of the program. And he was, to say, an uplifting gentleman, a person that changed the way 440 people that were in my first warrior camp. I've done 7 warrior camps since then. But in regard to that first one, he had a massive impact, not only on my life, but I know on the lives of the thousands of warriors that have got to see him and experience what he does. He'll explain a bit more of that later on. A little bit about me. My name is David Belfer. I'm from Melbourne. I'm a 52-year-old dad, business person, entrepreneur, crazy spiritual guy who loves to go and add value, as Robert does as well. We both like to have fun. Over the last few weeks that we've been getting to really know each other, which is really only 4 weeks. It feels like a lifetime because over the last 4 weeks, we've spoken probably daily, at least once. And we've forged an amazing connection from 15, how many thousand miles away are you from me? I have no idea. Siri could tell us in an instant, but I'm not going to ask her. And it's something that I'm cherishing because it's very easy and it's very open and it's very, at times, deep. And it's allowing me to, I don't know, I'm not going to say he's making me a better man, but I feel that he's reflecting me to be a better man. The reflections that I see in people in my daily life as a hairdresser, I see reflections of people that they don't necessarily see of themselves, looking from the inside out, I call it. And so I get that feeling when I'm together with Robert. And I really, really enjoy that. And as I said, that flow and the ease that we have in our conversations have taken us down many routes of laughter and also many depths of deep thought, consciousness, subconsciousness, out of consciousness. So that's why we created the concept of explorations, because we want to see what comes. We're not sure what's going to come. However, I just feel very blessed. Before we started, we created our first ritual between us. We blessed what's to come. We sent it up to Great Spirit or whoever Robert believes in. I call God Great Spirit, and asked for the guidance and the understanding and the will to know that our message is going to hit the right people and that magic will occur. And so we're both magicians in our own right. And I'm really looking forward to what's going to come. So Robert, what about a little bit about you?
Yeah, so the work that I do in the world is mostly about service. It's about how can I help individuals in the world. A lot of the work that I do is with doctors and nurses who are on the front line of the COVID crisis. I work with the healthcare system here, doing workshops and seminars, all virtual for the most part right now. But watching upfront the angst, the challenges, the fear, the anxieties of these healthcare workers and being able to support them really was meaningful to me. I also do some work with geriatric populations, dementia patients using drums and rhythm instruments, all virtually for the most part right now, because everything's shut down. And that's basically what I do. I do workshops and seminars. I developed about 110 different workshops and seminars. So curriculum development is something I really enjoy doing. I work with one of the universities out here as a professor, running classes right now for the USTA, United States Tennis Association. And yeah, so the work for me is about support and helping others. And that's what this is about for me. How can we provide a framework for people to be able to feel more connected to themselves, to feel more authentic, to maybe send a lifeline out to those individuals that are feeling anxious and in need. And that's the intention. That's the goal. That's my goal. And as David shared, in terms of joy, yeah, that's really, really important to me. For those of you that are warriors and light warriors who are on this call, you know that much of the work we do is about remembering our joy and remembering that playfulness that we have, that we often sometimes lose as adults, but that when we experience them, whether it be with a child that we have or other children or other adults or our own inner child, we remember we remember the joy of life. And so I will share something with all of you, if it's okay, that I often share in Warrior Camp. And it's the essence of one of the essences of what I seek. And it's a poem I call Through the Eyes of a Child that I wrote a long time ago, but has really framed much of the work that I do. As children, we all were innocent. so spontaneous and free. But we all learned how to grow up and forget the child's key. We forgot the child's wisdom and learned to mistrust and feel lost. Where can we find the love? Doesn't anyone know the loss? The freedom, love, and the trust, they all lie within our hearts. We've forgotten they are within us, though we've had them from the start. We all are born with this trust, some wonder and some glee. We all do enter this world so fearless and so free. But we hide the child within, afraid of the love that it has. How much better this world would be if that child within would just last. We must remember some lessons forgotten and forget some that we've learned. We'd return to the state of the child and be granted a key that we've earned.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. So you have those qualities, David. And for those of you that are listening to this call, I want you to think about those qualities that you've experienced in your life when you've had them and how bright your life could be. Now, I know we're going to have lots of ages on this call. I know my nephew's on this call who is I believe he's under 10. And so you have those qualities in you already, Uriah. And I've seen them. And so it's really about us adults who are, have responsibilities, and we have anxieties of paying bills and all the other things. And so it naturally creates a challenge for us. And so what I ask you is to think about ways that you can create this essence, this feeling in you, to remember the joy that is within you.
Yeah, that's amazing, Rob. So in saying that, I believe this could be where our first podcast is going to head, down the wonders of childlike vision and the lack of, what's the word I'm thinking of? As a child, now I live in my child a lot, and it's got me in trouble over my life of 52 years young, a lot. However, when I say that, it also brings out the joy for myself as well as for others. I believe that the way I live my life, I give permission to others to actually play as well. And it doesn't mean that, as I mentioned before, we don't get serious. There's shit that's got to get done. And so we just do it when it needs to be done, except you can choose to do things joyously, or you can choose to do things in other ways as well. So some of the things that bring masses of joy to me is song, singing, jumping, dancing, playing, skipping, just looking at nature all around us with a sense of wonder. One of my favorite memories of my son, when he was, I think he was 3, maybe 4, between 3 and 4, he was sitting in our bed between my wife Bridget and I, and we were watching the windy, cold day out and there's a massive oak tree over the road from our house, and it was swaying, and it was just in absolute flow. And Jesse looked at me in the eye and he said, "Oh, Dada, the trees are dancing." And that thought, that memory is one of the memories that I go to all of the time. When he was a little bit older, he had a scenario where he used to be this blonde, curly locks. He had this massive ringlets, like Shirley Temple kind ringlets all over his head. And he would walk and they would bounce. And that's his personality still to this day. But one day he used to wake up at what we call sparrow's fart. Have you ever heard that saying before, Robert?
I think that's Australian. Yeah, I know.
It is an Australian term. It's when the sun comes up, sparrows fart. The birds start to come to life. And he was awake. He's 22 now nearly. He doesn't do this that much anymore unless he's going to work or something like that. But he used to wake up at the crack of dawn. And I walked into his bedroom one morning, and it was before 6 a.m. and he was sitting on his bed and he was just joyous. And he put this big smile on his face. I said, Jesse, why are you so happy? And he said, Dad, I choose to be. I choose to be.
Beautiful.
And those two memories are two of the things that just bring me immense joy. There's a Yiddish word, or the word within our religion. Robert's Jewish, I'm Jewish, but you know what that means to us is completely whatever it is, and whatever it means to you, it's not relevant. It's just the thing that I want to share, the word of nachas. I was on a call yesterday, and a friend of ours was on the call. It was a Zoom call that I do within my salon every Sunday. And a friend comes on from South Africa, and he'd not heard the word nachas. And he said, how do you spell that? He wanted to look it up. I said, Nachhes. And then somebody else on the call said, OS. And then somebody else said, AS. And then somebody else said, nachos. I said, whatever the way you say it, it doesn't matter. It all means the same thing. And it's that joy or that sense of pride that you get from somebody within your realm, somebody within your family or within your workplace or within your community that's doing good. And you get joy from that. And you get joy from watching them actually evolve and become. And so it's one of the really beautiful things. I have many, many memories with my daughter as well, but, you know, we can come back to her another time. Robert, tell me about your joyous moments that you go to.
I'll tell you about that in just a moment. But as you were talking, I was thinking that it's really, really important to watch what you project. Whatever you have internally is what you're projecting, whether you're projecting it through language, what you say to people. Mm-hmm. If you notice, when you're talking to people, you tend to feel, when someone's talking to you about positivity, about gratitude, about, like, just listening to David, for example, how happy he was. What he projects out is what we hear, and then we experience it in terms of our own life. And it's really important to notice what you're feeding yourself. What are you feeding yourself in terms of your experience? What you're feeding yourself in terms of your life choices? What you're feeding yourself in terms of watching the news right now, which can really impact us negatively because it's generally all bad. And so what you want to do is you want to, as David shares, you want to see how you can fill yourself up with love, with light, with joy, with play. Because what's going to happen then is you're going to be projecting that out, as David just did. And if you notice, listening to David, it felt good to listen to it. You wanted to hear the stories about this thing called nachos or naches or whatever it is. and so notice what you're filling yourself with. Notice how you're projecting it out to the world, because what the world needs now more than anything is positive talk. What the world needs now than anything is love, is unconditional love, is acceptance, is embracing. In the U.S., for example, we have lots of divisions because people are stuck in their way and they're not open to reaching out because they're in their own thoughts about I'm right and you're wrong. Well, that's going to create division. What we're needing now is ways to create unity and connection and talk about what we have in common, not what we are missing in terms of what our commonalities are. So that, I think, is you know, what I got out of what you were just saying, David, is how to make choices, how to, you know, recognize the choices you're making, recognize if they make you happy or sad or angry or mad, and then make the choice to decide whether you want to continue that, whether you want to stay in there. Does it make you feel good? My guess is if you're angry, it doesn't make you feel good. My guess is if you make you feel sad, it doesn't make you feel good. That's my guess. I know for me.
Talking about for you or for me?
I'm talking about for me.
Excellent.
I'm talking about for me.
In saying that's so true what you say with regard to the choices. However, we have all of those depths of emotions and the sadness and the anger, and they can be amazing propulsion tools to get you into action, which a lot of people, when they are in the state of sadness or mad, they do this. They go internal. instead of going out. That's my experience. I can only come from my experience. And who was it? T. Harv Eker said, do you remember that dude? Have you ever met him before?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. He says don't believe a word I say because I can only come from my experience. So
yeah, I think what I'm talking about is when we get stuck in a emotion.
Yeah.
Because remember, what Deepak Chopra says is we have 60,000 thoughts, and 95% of them are the same thoughts you had yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. So you want to look at, are you stuck in any of these places, or are you reaching to understand them, to have what I would call self-exploration or self-awareness? Wherever you notice yourself blaming others, generally that means you have to look inside and explore what are you blaming others for, that you have to look inside yourself. Often the hardest place for us to look at is in ourselves, in taking responsibility for our choices, our life, our feelings, our experience. The moment we're saying it's your fault, then I'm no longer taking responsibility for it. Now, it could be easier to do that because I don't have to look at myself. But the ultimate choice is, how can we become more aware of those places and spaces that are challenged?
A lot of people, as you say, come to the challenge. They get to that edge of their comfort zone, maybe. They're coming to it. They're butting up against it. And they just go, you know what? I'm out of here. They leave it.
Right.
One of our things from Warrior Camp, and I'll bring up lots and lots of the memories and the beliefs from those because I've learned all of those over the years, but finding a way of creating it to make it impactful, which is one of the things that truly was I go through the finish line. You don't get to the finish line. You go through it. You keep on going. Now, I'm guilty as charged here, of going through many, many times and getting to the stage and going, no, I can't finish this. And often it's because, have you ever had a goal or something like that you've been working towards and you realize the ladder's up the wrong fucking wall? Sorry, you've got youngsters on this thing.
You got youngsters on this call. We should monitor that.
I'm gonna, for your nephew, I apologize.
Thank you.
But I won't necessarily. What's the word when you say you can't do things? They call it something in media. It's called, I can't remember the word. What's the word? Censorship. I apologize. I'll try and pre-censor before it comes out, but no promises. So apologies ahead of time.
No worries. No worries.
But with regard to that, looking at guilty as charged of finding areas where I've found that I can't go through. And it's sometimes because it's not, the ladder's against the wrong wall, for that analogy. You get up the top of the ladder and you look out over the horizons and you go, wrong mountain. Or you look at the person next to you on the ladder and you go, wrong partner. Or whatever it will be. There's so many different things that can occur. However, in saying that, being in motion and being able to move when one gets stuck, that's where the courage comes into it. I'm not saying I'm courageous. I'm saying that I just keep moving. Sometimes I don't think. And that's sometimes the biggest thing that stops people from doing things, Robert. What do you think that is?
Well, it sounds like you have an idea already. So what did you share?
I'm fishing at the moment. I'm going fishing. I'm seeing what you're going to say. Yeah, I fish. Robert and I have a thing about boundaries. This was a discussion we had last week. I throw things out. I put things out. I ask lots of questions. And Robert said to me up front, I'm just calling it as it is. Is that all right? Can I do that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Just call it as it is. And he said, no. He just said, no, I'm not playing. I don't want to do that. And that's one of the things that I absolutely love about this, because he puts me in my spot, and that's okay.
I want to talk about something about that. Sorry, David.
That's good.
I really interrupted you, but this is spontaneous. In terms of the programs that I teach, one of the things that comes up a lot is watching when people can't have difficulty saying no. Because of their programming, because they don't want somebody to feel bad about the fact that they didn't say yes. So learning how to create boundaries is really, 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 really important. And that's because that's all about honoring yourself. And so if there are things in your life that you're doing not because you want to, but because you feel you should. Now, there is no right or wrong here. There is no black or white here. This is a gray zone. Each of us has to determine what when we overextend ourselves, because that could lead to burnout, but it can also lead to feeling like you're not being true to yourself. You're not being authentic. And so I as one of the things I like to do is just encourage you, if you're listening on this to this, is just think about where you overextend yourself, where you put too much in your schedule because you don't like saying no to someone, because you don't want to hurt their feelings, but instead you'll hurt your feelings instead. And it's a really fun game to practice doing it, just practicing saying no. So David asked me some questions. He said something, I don't remember exactly what you asked, but it's like some kind of a test or something. And I just said, well, no, I don't know the answer. I'm not going to answer you. What do you think? But anyway, so that's kind of the lesson beyond the lesson for me of that piece. But thank you. Yeah.
My pleasure. And that's the joy of this sort of conversation. It's a conversation that we're having. It's we're not trying to, I don't think we're not competing here. However, people say competition is bad. I don't believe that. I believe that competition is great. And I was blessed. I did Tony Robbins' UPW, the Unlimited Power Within event a few weeks ago. And I did it a couple of years ago as well with a dear friend of mine, Annie. We flew up to Sydney and did the live event. And, one of the things that he said, and I heard it the last time as well, because I'm sure the script is pretty much the same. It's just the effects that occur throughout that and who I am at the time of hearing it. He said that when you've got two people that are competing with each other, it's a good thing, because what happens is they're trying to make each other better. He brought up the concept of Michael Phelps, and I don't know who else there was that he won against. Well, it was the whole world 7 times in one Olympic Games that he won, the multiple gold medals that he won. But in saying that, he was just going for his goal. But when you've got somebody that's in competition with you, you can either do it joyously or you can want to kill them. And so if you're working at it there's cooperation and there's competition and there's co-journeying together. If two people are wanting to make each other better or to create more value or create more magic around them, which is what I believe we're doing, because we both want the best for others. Yeah,
I would agree with that. So at this Enlightened Warrior training camp that I've been a trainer for since 2005, I developed a friendship with this lovely man called Hanuman, and he's an actor and a martial artist. And what we did was we started playing table tennis together in between camps and the evenings and the days. And at first we were playing really, really competitively. I mean, like I love table tennis. I love ping pong. And so he loved it too. And so we were and we were, hitting the ball and doing the curves and all this stuff. And it was just, ultimately what I realized was it was kind of stressful. And so he introduced me to a concept called blue ocean. And it was fascinating. It was actually Aaron Yui, who was also on the team, shared it with him. And a red ocean is competition. Blue ocean is cooperation. And so the goal was to explore, because I realized that he was getting stressed and I was in my like lion mode and it's like who's beating who. And so the goal was how to make this into a blue ocean experience, how to make table tennis cooperative. And so we started thinking about the games that we could create using table tennis other than simply winning or losing. Simply then finding 11 points and then you lose, I win. Ha 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 ha. So we started coming up with these amazing games of, let's see, how long can we keep the ball on the table without letting it fall to the ground? And I think we got up to 560. And it was like every time it was like, okay, we have 20, let's go up to 30. But we were doing it together. And what I noticed happening in that process was we started laughing. We were actually laughing and joyful and giggly and coming up with new creative ways that we could use this concept of blue ocean in table tennis, and even coming up with ways to play table tennis. It didn't make any sense in the past because it was stretching the boundaries.
Yep.
Which actually came out of the cooperative focus, because we were both, now we're brainstorming, now we're thinking together rather than me versus you. Well, and so I think there's a great deal of value in shifting gears, in shifting focus to look at, what I would call our normal worldview of table tennis was competition. That was it. We used to play table tennis on my dinner table with my father, and it was always competition. It was who's going to beat who, Scrabble, who's going to beat who. But shifting gears for us and me and Hanuman allowed us to move into play in a way that was very, very different than the competitive spirit, which I was so used to.
Yeah.
But it wasn't laughter based. It was war based. It was aggressive based. And I really loved Blue Ocean. I didn't think I would. I thought, how could it match up to competition? But it really did. It really did. So yeah, just in terms of what you're saying, David, I think there's a lot to be said about cooperation versus competition.
Yeah. So let me explain to you about my fishing. When I fish, it's an opening. It's a request for people to come and play. And some people like to play and some people don't like to play. And depending upon your mood in our discussions, you will either go, no, or you play. And what happens is it's the thing of opening it up, especially in a group environment. I don't even necessarily have an answer in my mind as to what I'm looking for. It's just, it's something that if I'm in a discussion with somebody and I go blank, I'll go fishing for two reasons. It gives me a moment to actually start to think. And the other thing that it does is it creates a whole new trajectory and you don't know where it's going to go. And that's fun. That's exciting. That's the joy that I get, or that's the childlike wonder. What if, where can this go? How big can it be? Is it going to be 5 people watching? We've got 2 people on my screen. I don't know how many on your screen. It's probably my mother and my wife because they love me. Now, when you said as well about Hanuman, I've known Hanuman's a Melbourne boy like me. And I met him similar time to when I met you as well. And when we think of Hanuman is the god of joy and the god of laughter, the monkey god. That's the name. Hanuman is the monkey god. And so he's a great person to play and a great person to play with. But when it comes to cooperation and to the flow, there's a lot of flow. If you're thinking of the blue ocean, it's all about movement. It's all about rolling in and rolling out. And, if you do that with your hands, if you're on screen or at home or wherever you're watching it, whether it be live or later, just go into flow, just rock in your chair and let your hands go in and out and in and out. And it's literally a figure 8. I do it sideways. You can see it going in and out. It's infinite. And when you come into that flow with another person, things seem easy. Things aren't hard. And when you've been talking for an hour, it seems like it's 5 minutes. So finding the people that you hang out with, that's another thing. Who do you hang out with? This isn't a rhetorical question to you, Robert. Who do you hang out with? If there are people that are going to lift you up, if there are people that are going to tell you the truth, they're going to tell you, pull it in, as in pull your head in, or they're going to tell you keep going, or they're going to say, It's not a good idea. From whose perspective is that not a good idea? You have to ask that question. Mm-hmm. So it comes down to, who do you want to hang out with? You know, they say the top 5 people you hang out with the most are the people that are most like you in the areas of love, or in the areas of business, or in the areas of sport, or whatever it will be like that. And so it's finding who your tribe is and who you want to hang out with. So it is a rhetorical question. Now, if anyone has any comments that they want to put into our what's it called? Those things at the bottom there, the messages. Welcome to do that. We'd love to have any people coming on and asking us any questions that they want to know about. But when it comes down to the concept of tribe, look at that. Look at the people that are in your tribe, because for me, I can only talk for me, it's something that is very, very dear to my heart. And I've got many different tribes, and they don't all mix. And sometimes you have to keep them segregated from each other, because they won't understand each other. They won't be able to do that because you talk different languages. It's like different countries talk different languages, but there is a common language that everyone knows. Can I ask you a question, Robert? What do you think that language is? I'm not playing. What do you think that language is?
What do I think that language is? What do you? I don't even know what are you talking about?
Well, I'm fishing again, but you know, I say that there's so many different tribes. What do you think the language is that crosses the divide?
David, I really don't know what you mean.
All right. Well, there's music.
So you had ideas about it already. Got it.
And this one I had ideas. I should write down. I'll write it down and I'll give you the answer here. And I'll say, Robert, what do you think the answer is? And you'll go here. I'll go here. That's what it was before. Can you see that there?
That's good. So this actually goes to this quote from Jane Roberts' book, Seth Material. It talks about how there are gulfs of consciousness between people. So we may think that a person understands what we're saying because we're projecting onto them that we assume that they understand it. But the reality is they may not. They may not even be in the same wavelength. And so that's okay. It's okay for you. Again, it goes back to, just trusting yourself. You don't have to come up with the right answer. David was talking about mistakes yesterday with me and how there are no mistakes. And it goes back to acceptance. So David put me on the spot. He asked me a question. I had no idea what he was talking about, what language. This is something he was very clear about. And he said, of course, this is going to be clear. I have it written down. I understand what he said. But when he said it to me, I had no idea. So I could either make something up.
Have it written down. That's the problem.
I could either make something up. Like, what language are the tribes? I don't know. What do you think? French?
Come up and say
French.
Swahili.
Let's see. French. Are they French? Are they?
Yes.
Are they German? I don't know what kind of tribe. What are you talking about? So
there's no wrong answer.
It's interesting. Right. So this is what happens though. With the dynamic with David and I sometimes is he will put a question to me based on something that he thinks about and knows the answer. And often I'll say, well, I have no idea. And I'll just say, no, I don't understand what you're saying. Now, what would be helpful then is you're clarifying it, which you just did. So I appreciate that.
My pleasure. So I was going to bring up the concept of music being an international language, because at the warrior camps, there's people that are sitting there with cans on, like you've got cans as in headphones on, listening to a person from Japan or listening to a person from Thailand or from Korea or from Vietnam or from Germany or from Switzerland or from Paris, wherever they're from, where there's constant translation going on. Now that translation is somebody else's translation or understanding of what you may have been saying. However, when you put all of that aside and you bring the concept of rhythm, everybody has an experience of rhythm. It even goes back to that flow again, but everyone understands that when you've got rhythm, everyone can join in. Everyone can become a part of that same thing. How many times have you ever been at a market and there's a band that's playing and there's people of every single creed and color, and they're brown and yellow and green and blue, and all the colors of the rainbow are there, and all of the different ages of the people are there, but everyone is enjoying. Everyone gets into it. It happens all the time, and they draw a crowd, and they all enjoy an experience for 5 minutes, and then they dissipate. And then another person might come on. So buskers, they call them here in Australia. What do they call them in America? People that go and do street theatre and things like that.
Actors.
Actors. Out of work actors.
Unfortunately, yes.
Very prominent in New York.
So they call them buskers, huh?
Buskers. B-U-S-K-E-R. To be a busker. So you go out and you put your hat on the floor, or you have a friend walk around with your hat, and people put in a buck or put in a dime or 10 cents, 50 cents, $50.
They also call them street performers here.
Street performers here. Okay. That's what they're called here as well. But, the term that I learned, or the term that I had when I was going out playing my guitar on the streets, was a busker. We had to get a permit to put on your guitar case to say you're allowed to be here. The rules.
So I have an interesting experience where I did some street performing. Just a very short snippet of my life. I did this. So I was with a friend of mine who later became a music therapist. Are you still there, David? You look like you froze.
Yes, I'm definitely here. I'm enjoying the sun coming.
So what we did was we decided we were going to take some drums, and we were going to go to a very, very, very busy intersection in Manhattan. It was actually 53rd Street, and I think it was 3rd Avenue. And we would set up a little area where we would drum and put out a little basket. This was 30 years ago. And so so there we were drumming. Tony and I were drumming. And we noticed that nobody was putting any money into this little basket. And then I had this idea. And the idea was, let's slow down our tempo, because we're going fast and these people are walking really fast and they're really stressed. And so I started doing a very slow rhythm. And, people are now starting to entrain to the rhythms of walking a little slower as they go by. And as we went into this very slow rhythm, people started putting things into the basket. But they were putting in?
What?
They were putting in fruit. They were giving us fruit. I said, all the people were passing by putting fruit in our basket. And I thought, well, I mean, how lovely, they're feeding us. But I think the most important piece of that was shifting them from their fast pace, matching them, to remembering the slow pace. And if I can share with you, the first time that I went into New York, I was about 12 years old. I took a subway down to Wall Street, and I walked outside, and I noticed that I started walking very fast. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand why I was walking fast, because I had no place to go. And I looked down and I noticed that everyone's feet was walking at the speed that I was walking. Wow. So I was unconsciously entraining to the rhythm of everyone rushing to get to their work. And the moment I noticed that, I realized, again, it was all unconscious. And then I slowed myself down so that instead of matching their rhythm, which was happening unconsciously, I was now able to walk at a much slower, relaxed pace, because I had nowhere to go. But that concept of when we entrain unconsciously to rhythms, it happens in organizations. It happens with the people that are around us. And so, again, a real opportunity for exploring, where are you moving quickly in your reality when you really want to be doing things slower, but you're matching the rhythms of those around you. Just something to think about.
That's great. I love that. In saying that, there's many times where I think in saying that, Robert, it's something's just clicking in my head, where the ability to slow down. And actually, it's given me. Have you ever walked into a lift and everyone's facing forward to the doors, but you just stand there, you walk in and you just stand there and you're facing everybody, and felt the discomfort of all these 20 people within the lift? Have you ever done that?
First of all, I don't know what a lift is, but I'm assuming it's an elevator.
An elevator. Have you ever walked into an elevator and instead of doing you walk in and then you turn and you stand facing the door like everyone else, and you do the side shuffle when somebody wants to go out?
Right.
Or have you ever just walked in and just stood there and just gone, just smiled and seen the people start to.
Right.
You've never done that.
I've never done that, but I assume you have.
All the time. All the time. Would you do me a favor between now and next week, if you have the opportunity, to hop into an elevator? Or another way you could do it is when you're on an escalator, the escalators in shopping centers, and you're going up, just turn around and look down. Or in the subway.
I like how you play with nonconformity. It kind of matches the Ralph Waldo Emerson quote that I live by, which is, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." So it sounds like you are doing that. I remember doing exercise like that in a nonverbal communication class when I was in my college days, where we would, basically challenge conformity. And I appreciate that about you, that you are willing to do that. It's I'm sure it's fun watching the discomfort for you.
Well, I actually don't do it to create discomfort. I actually do it, and this big smile that comes on my face, and all of a sudden, smiles are. You've seen the videos, I'm sure, on YouTube. Maybe you haven't, over the people getting on the trains and watching a video on their phone, and all of a sudden they're in fits of laughter, and then the whole carriage is laughing. They have no idea why.
Right.
That's back to the entrainment again. That's just things are infectious. We know, there's a pandemic at the moment where things are infectious and things are not great. However, there are many great things that are infectious as well.
I agree.
Joy, love, being in the park and watching dogs run, and the glee that they have. Yesterday I got home from yesterday afternoon. It was very, where was I? I was doing my call yesterday that I mentioned earlier on. And I got home and I felt like celebrating. And it was about 5:45, 5 o'clock. And I walked into the house and I said, "Bridget, Jesse, we're going for ice cream. We're having dessert before we have dinner." and they went, "Oh, okay." They know that they just have to come, or else I would have gone anyway. And we took the dogs and we went down to the park. And there was this little black poodle that was, I think, about 11 months old. Tiny thing compared to our dogs, but fluffy as fluffy, because nobody can get their dogs groomed at the moment either. And so this dog had more fur than it had body, in the sense of it was just fur. It was just this massive ball of fluff. But they'd trained this dog just to run. And then the father, the dad, the big dog would go in an interesting whistle that I'd never heard before. And this dog would spin around at the end of the park and come running back, sit down at him. He'd give him a treat, and then he'd just run again. Now, this couple, the husband and wife, didn't move from where they were. And we were at the park for more than 40 minutes. And this little puppy did nothing but run, spin around, come back, sit, grab a treat, and do it again. Dogs have joy. There's so much joy that they can have, and that we can see from them. And so, I don't know, wanting people to find areas that might not be the normal looking for places to be of joy. They're everywhere. Looking at, that's just the way I see things. That's the way my mind works and my brain works. And it's like when we were in the jungle last year and walking up to the playground area. It's funny, we were walking to a playground, and I don't know where I'm going with that, but that was a time where you and I actually really gelled.
Yeah, it's true.
And What do you remember of that experience? I can't actually remember what happened. I just remember walking up.
Well, I just remember that we clicked, and we had a wonderful conversation, and you know, you accompanied me into this jungle area. So David, I'm feeling like we are at the time of our end of our first call.
Wow. How long have we been doing
it? 50 minutes.
50 minutes feels like
5. That's true. But I want to, you know, thank you and thank those of you that are on this call for hanging out with us. We're going to be doing this weekly, and we're going to reevaluate after 4 weeks, but the goal is to do it for weekly. And again, we don't know where it's going to go, but there's lots of possibilities. Mind, body, spirit. We'll see where it flows. But this was an experiment. As you can tell, we didn't have real plans in terms of its process, but I think we did get a lot of wonderful moments and nuggets and thoughts. And again, our goal is to help support you and this world at this time that is, you know, challenged with COVID and politics and anxiety, and maybe put a little bit of light in, if possible. At least that's what I would like us to do. And I know that you're all about joy, and I'm certainly about joy. And yeah, any closing words you'd like to share?
Behind any level of joy, there's often a layer of sadness. And that's when the choice can come to create what you want it to be. I've loved this last 53 minutes or however long it's been. I think that there is, actually, I don't think I feel that there is much more value to be added between us.
Absolutely.
For others, whether it be that they come on and ask us what, you know, they can ask us what they would like to see. Put any questions in the link below. This is going to be up on YouTube later on today. We'll turn it into a SoundCloud recording as well, so we can send it out. We'll just see where it goes. Who knows what will happen? But I'm just very grateful for your time if you've come and had a listen, had a play with us. And I look forward to our next call, wherever that be.
So about that, so our plan is to not do it, to actually do it a day before. So it'll be on Saturday next week.
9 p.m. Saturday.
9 p.m. Eastern time for us. And
midday,
I guess 12
on Sunday.
Yeah, 12 p.m. For you. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you, David. It's been a real treat. And
shoulder massage to say you've done really good, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. So we'll see you next week. If you want to join us, you're certainly welcome, and certainly welcome to invite anyone you like. Thank you much, everybody.
Blessings all. Blessings.
Blessings.
See you, Rob. Thank you, man.
Thank you.